Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center. As you can see by the title and by the thumbnail, today we're going to be looking at some film on Derek Stingley Jr. So the very first play, man, you got a one-on-one matchup on the outside with DJ Moore. So if you look at this play right here, this was an interesting play. I looked at it a couple times to try to dissect it, to kind of try to take in exactly what was going on, because initially I was like, man, DJ Moore had him beat because he was able to stack him. Now, I think that Derek Stingley was intentionally doing that, and I'm going to tell you why. So notice that he's lined up outside the numbers, right? So he knows one thing. Where is my help at? My help is inside, right? So if he tries to take a vertical release similar to this one right here, I have over the top help with the safety, because it like they probably was in a single high look. So I have over the top help. So what he does is he kind of stays in the trail position. Now, what that does for the quarterback, that puts the quarterback in no man's land. And granted, I'm pretty sure that was Caleb Williams throwing him the ball, a rookie quarterback that hasn't got that experience with throwing against NFL defenses just yet. So that puts him in a bad position, because you look at it, right? If you overthrow this ball, or if you try to put it, because if you're looking at it from a leverage standpoint, you see that DJ Moore is on top of him right there. He has him stacked. So in your mind, you're thinking, okay, if I'm able to put the ball over the top, then that's an easy catch. Now, here's the thing. It's intentionally done that way because now you have a high-low bracket. You got Stingley underneath it, and you got the safety over the top. So if you overthrow it, the safety either get it or he's going to take DJ Moore's head off. And if you underthrow it, just like how he kind of did right here, Derek Stingley get it. So he did a good job at understanding what the situation was and just using the inside safety as leverage to be able to get this interception. So right here on this play, we got a 3rd and goal. We got a gotta have a situation. You know, if you watch my videos consistently, you know whenever I always say, when you get in the red area, every down is a gotta have a situation. 1st down, 2nd down, 3rd down, 4th down. When you get to the red area, you want to score points. You don't want to turn it. You don't want to walk away with no points. You don't want to turn the ball over on downs. You want to be able to come up with some points, whether it's a touchdown or a field goal. You want to come up with a touchdown, but you will settle for a field goal. So obviously, you don't want to come up empty-handed when you're in the red area. So right here, we got Derek Stingley matched up. So he ended up with his back turned to the quarterback, focused on the receiver. So it looked like they were in a version of man coverage. So based off of situations, sometimes you're not always gonna be able to get your head around to be able to kind of locate the ball. In situations like this, where your back is turned and you can't get your head around, what your strength is gonna be to try to play the receiver hands. And what I mean by that, so just kind of looking at you see. So a receiver is pretty much going to tell you when the ball is coming to him. Now when you get to the league, guys become a lot more skilled, and they don't really telegraph when they're going up or when the ball is coming. They kind of wait till the very last minute to decide what they're going to do. But most people are, they have tails to let you know that the ball is coming. So right here, if you peep. So right here, he jumps up with his hands open, trying to catch the ball. So Derek Stingley knows, okay, once he jumps up with his hands open, the ball is coming. Now, all I have to do is time it perfect. So once he catches this ball, I'm just going to push up through his hands, and hopefully I'll dislodge the ball. And obviously that's what he was able to do right here too. Now, something else you can possibly do too, if that didn't work, you can always try to push him out of bounds, because if you're looking at where he's at, he's kind of in the air. So had Derek Stingley even if he would have caught it, had he pushed him out of bounds, it still would have been no catch, because he would never been able to get his feet down. But he did a good job at just tracking his hands and being able to time it perfectly, and was able to punch the ball loose. So you got Derek Stingley Jr. at the top of the screen. So this looked like it was probably some type of form of zone. It really looked like it was maybe a cover 3. And the reason why I say that is because you got both of the corners playing off. I was able to count 10 guys in the frame, so that it was only one guy unaccounted for, and 9 times out of 10, that was a single high safety. So they just was very, very deep on their 3rd already in terms of the corners go. But he just did a good job at just reading the quarterback's eyes, reading Trevor Lawrence's eyes. He pretty much stared down where he was going the whole entire time. He only really looked at the left side of the field, and obviously this was a 3rd down. This was a gotta have it situation, and more times than not, who is that gotta have it guy? Whenever it's time for a play to be made for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who is that ball going to? Most of the time it's going to Brian Thomas Jr., and you kind of can anticipate based off of splits exactly what it was he was doing. You see he's lined up on a tighter split, so more times than not, that's probably going to indicate, especially if we're in the deep 3rd, if we're in 3 deep, you're not going to attack vertically, because we're preventing that. So more times than not, if you are lined up that type, especially in a 3 deep, more is going to be an outbreaking route. So he just does a good job at reading it and then being able to close the distance to come get the pass deflection. So you got Stingley matched up at the top of the screen. So you know the down in the distance. It's third and 10. So this has got to have a territory, obviously. So for the most part, the Buffalo Bills are an aggressive offense. So you pretty much know that anything that they're throwing is gonna be either at the sticks or past the sticks to either be able to get the first down or to potentially put themselves in a position to go for it on 4th and short with the tush push, because you know that's the wave in the NFL. But Stingley just does a good job in terms of his technique. Is just he does a phenomenal job staying over the top of him. You know what I mean? And never really allowed him to attack him vertically. So it kind of made him one dimensional in terms of knowing exactly what he was going to do. And he just read this play a mile away. He just ran a simple curl and he was able to break on the ball and be able to get the pass break up to prevent the first down. So, well, you know, one of the things I love about a corner, I love to see a corner in lockdown coverage like I've been seeing from Stingley. That is exciting to see those picks. It is exciting to see those PBUs, especially in those gotta-have-it moments. But one of the things I love to see is one that don't mind coming down the hill and laying the boom. So right here, they just ran a simple jet sweep, and he just kind of beat Watson to the point. Watson, like, he kind of was lost after the first corner or the first defender right here was able to get past him, and he kind of got caught in the back, looking back at him, and that allowed for Stingley just to be able to come downhill and put a shoulder pad on the guy and force him out of bounds. All right, so we got Stingley on the top of the screen. Once again, we got another gotta-have-it situation, and we got him matched up with none only than the release guy, the route guy, Mr. Davante Adams, right? So we seeing him matched up on the best. That's what we want to see. So right here, man, Davante Adams does his Davante Adams thing with the release. But once again, to the young receivers, notice how when he's giving his move, he's still covering ground. He's still threatening the cornerback space. He's not just making the move steady. But Stingley just does a good job at kind of reading it. Obviously, you see right here at the top of the route, right there, boom, he get hands on him, and which allows him to kind of stay over the top of Davante Adams, which allowed for him to get the pass break up there. So they didn't get the first down, but like I say, just good fundamentals in terms of Stingley, man. Being patient, not really going for the moves, and when he broke, bam, got hands right there, point of attack, and was able to get that pass break up. Once again, get to see him make a play in the run game. So right here, they run the ball, 3rd and 1, got to have a situation. He just does a good job at really just evading the block on number 83 right here, the tight end. He just runs right past him and does a good job at, sticking to the fundamentals when it comes to tackling, being able to stay low, attack the ball carrier, stay low, and keep your shoulders squared and take your head off center line. And he was able to make the tackle in the backfield to prevent the 3rd down conversion. So one of the things that a corner has to do to be considered elite is they have to be able to play the ball on the deep part of the field. So right here, he does that. You got a 2nd and 10 play, and you got a speedster like J-Bo on the outside matched up on I don't think it was a one-on-one situation. It like they might have had a too high look, but he was matched up on the outside with a speedster, and he was able to track the ball beautifully. That was a nice throw by Goff too, but he was able to track the ball beautifully and almost went up over J-Bo to get the interception. So that was just a beautiful pass breakup by Derek Stingley Jr. So we got Stingley matched up at the bottom of the screen. Once again, he's matched up on one of the best receivers in the NFL, is CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, you're looking at the down and distance. It's 3rd and 13, so it's a gotta-have-it situation, right? And when we talk about gotta-have-it situations, who is the gotta-have-it guy for the Cowboys? That's CeeDee Lamb. So we're gonna take our gotta-have-it guy, Derek Stingley Jr. and put him up against their gotta-have-it guy, CeeDee Lamb. And man, he just does a good job at just reading and reacting to it. You know what I mean? The whole goal was to try to get CeeDee Lamb to run away from him, especially by him being in off-man coverage. And man, as soon as he saw that, he just put the pedal to the metal and was able to close the distance so fast on CeeDee Lamb and make the tackle to prevent him from getting the first down. All right, so right here, you got Stingley matched up at the top of the screen. You got another guy to have a situation. This is a 3rd and 3, kind of just knowing the down and distance is kind of being able, helps you with anticipating on what the offense is probably going to run. So I'm trying to look and see where's this maybe cover 2, because I'm looking at Stingley right here. He kind of lets the receiver go past him, but his eyes are focused kind of on the quarterback. It's not really ever really on the receiver. Watch, like right here, his eyes is on the quarterback, and the quarterback obviously eyed down who he was throwing the balls to that whole time, which was number 36, the running back out the backfield, and he was able to just come back downhill and just deliver a crushing blow. And then number 39 came and finished it up on the back end, so they prevented them from being able to get the first down. All right, so we got another gotta-have-it situation for the Jaguars. You already know when it's 3rd down, when we gotta have it, who are they going to more times than not is going to be Brian Thomas Jr. So right here, you got him and Stingley matched up one-on-one in the slot. So one thing about Stingley does a pretty good job at utilizing his center field safety, meaning that you got to look at it like this, right? So what Stingley does is notice how when he comes off the line of scrimmage, obviously he kind of stays to the inside of Brian Thomas Jr. So now what he's doing is he's putting Trevor Lawrence or the quarterback in a tough spot to be able to make somewhat of a perfect pass, right? And even I think to certain extents that if a guy isn't that good at playing the ball down the field like Brian Thomas, like on Derek Stingley, my bad, then obviously some of these plays might be completions. But the fact that he's very good at playing the ball on the deep part of the field, it takes away from that. But you got to take into consideration too. So he has over the top help. So it's not like there's nobody back there. So even if I do allow him to kind of get a step on me and I stay underneath, that's an almost impossible pass, because if the only way that pass would have been complete is if Trevor Lawrence would have kind of angled it towards the sideline to prevent the safety from being able to make a play. But once again, that's a perfect pass that you have to make to prevent that from happening. But he does a good job at playing it on ball in deep part of the field and coming up with another pass breakup in a gotta have it situation. So right here on this play, man, Brian Thomas Jr. kind of got the best of him. If you look closely, they kind of engaged in somewhat of a slight hand fighting situation coming off the line of scrimmage. I'm going to wait till he go back. So notice that right here, he's going to, boom, swipe his hand down. It's almost like him swiping his hand down kind of gave him an added boost and kind of allowed for him to get, be able to stack Stingley. But one of the things I will say, too, is that Stingley has phenomenal recovery speed, because right here, boom, he's beat. But he's able to close the distance pretty quickly and get back and get his head back to be able to locate the ball. Now, I will say, in my opinion, I wish I can kind of see a full field view of this, but kind of considering where the safety is coming from out of angle and just looking at the angle from which he's coming from. Because at first I was like, man, what kind of pass was that? Like, if they had a center field safety, why would you just lob that ball up there like that? Because 9 times out of 10, it's going to be an interception. But I do believe that the safety kind of was out of position. So I think that had Trevor Lawrence been able to get this ball out in front of Brian Thomas Jr., it might would have been a different situation. It might not have been a touchdown. It might have just been a good, a deep ball. It might have just been a deep completion against Derek Stingley. But you can tell that based off of how he threw the ball, that Brian Thomas Jr. kind of had to slow down and try to come back to the ball. And doing that against a guy that has phenomenal ball skills like Derek Stingley Jr., allowing him to be able to catch back up and get his head back to the quarterback, it ends up with results like this, which was an interception. So right here, man, once again, man, he just does a good job at, just kind of reading and seeing exactly what it is Tua wants to do. And he's just able to close the distance so fast on this little check down route right here. Like, you would like to try to, if from a quarterback's perspective, you would like to try to get the ball in his hands to try to make a guy miss, because 9 times out of 10, if he makes Stingley misses, that's probably going to be a first down, or if not a first down, a pretty good gain. But Stingley just does a good job at being able to close the distance so fast and get to him and just make a tackle in open space. Now, this is another characteristic, like I always say, of a good defense. I'm talking about a truly good defense is being able to make tackles in open field, because like I said, if you miss this tackle, that's probably a first down or possibly an even bigger play. But by you being fundamentally sound, coming downhill, getting low, square, having your shoulder square, and just driving down and making the tackle, you take away an opportunity for an explosive play. So this right here was just a beautiful play by Derek Stingley Jr. So let's analyze the situation, right? You see that the Texans are in a single high safety shell. So that means that it's either cover 1 or cover 3 if you see single high. But in this situation right here, it's cover 1, which means it's man all across the board. So you see that Tyreek Hill is matched up. He's lined up in the slot, right? So by him being lined up in the slot, his split is much tighter. Split meaning he's closer to the line of scrimmage, right? More times than not, if you analyze the situation, right, and you looking at the split. So if you're looking at it, if he's lined up on the outside, we know that he has the outside sideline working against him. So it's not really too much he can do besides attack vertically or going inside. But if you go inside, guess what? You're going straight into the safety help in terms of the offense. So if you know that, then you can kind of play this strategically, and it kind of can give you an idea of exactly what's going on with this play. And if you look, it's basically like Stingley ran this route for Tyreek Hill because he pretty much anticipated that it was going to be something outbreaking, especially by them being in a single high shell. And like I said, man, he just pretty much ran the route for Tyreek Hill and was able to come up with this interception. And once again, like we say, when we're talking about elite guys, especially at the cornerback position, how do you line up with the elite guys at the wide receiver position? And this is one of the most fastest, explosive wide receivers in the National Football League. And he came up on top on this play right here. So it's so crazy because the very next clip, once again, what do we have? We have a one-on-one situation. We have our best versus they best. Tyreek Hill versus Derek Stingley Jr. Once again, in the slot. So he's in a tight split. So notice, once again, what's a split? A split is for a receiver, how close they are to the line of scrimmage. He's inside of the numbers, right? He's right there next to the line of scrimmage. So for the most part, you pretty much know that it's something outbreaking. Think about the previous play. What was I talking about? A single high safety. So it's not really nothing you can do in terms of like a post because you will be running into the strength of that because of that single high safety. So everything that you do is either going to have to be vertically or it's going to have to be outbreaking. So if he lines up in the inside like that, guess what 9 times out of 10 he's going to do? Because if he was going to run something vertical, he probably would have just lined up outside the sticks to make it very difficult for that safety to try to get over top and make a play on the ball. So more times than not, he's probably running something outwards, whether it's a corner route or whether it's just kind of a fade route right here. And I know some people might say, well, the ball was underthrown. Yeah, it was. But you got to think about with Tyreek Hill looking back. He's looking back to try to track the ball, so he's kind of drifting off towards the sideline. And this has to be a perfect ball thrown because if you throw it up front and try to say, well, if you would have just led him out, that's probably going to be incompletion. And Tyreek Hill would have had no shot at it. So you're trying to put that ball in the perfect position before the safety can get to it and to where, Derek Stingley is not able to make a play. But once again, man, Derek Stingley's ability to play the ball on a deep part of the field is phenomenal. So a lot of these plays that we seeing, the average over the average corner, these plays are probably completions. But when you're dealing with a guy that's like Derek Stingley Jr., these plays ends up in interceptions, just like this one right here. We gotta have a situation right here, a 4th and 2. You got Stingley matched up at the top of the screen on number 1. So once again, let's analyze the situation. Look at where his split is. He's lined up close to the line of scrimmage. Not line of scrimmage, but close to the offensive line. So more times than not, why are they doing that? Because they're trying to create space for him to work outwards. So Derek Stingley does a good job I'm not going to say he does a good job at noticing that, because I'm pretty sure he does do a good job at noticing that. But the reason, what gives me the confidence to kind of say that too, is because look at him when he tried to run the little in-out thing. Stingley didn't bite on the end at all because guess what? I have coverage inside. So let's just say, for instance, if he do catch it, guys are going to drive downhill because by the time they see that the ball has been released from Herbert's hand to him, somebody's coming downhill to possibly make that tackle, right? Now, if I bite on that and I give him that outside, that's probably a first down. And more times than not, man, that's probably going to be in a touchdown if I give him that and I can't make that tackle in open field. So Stingley just does a good job at with being aware of what's going on, not falling for the fake from on the inside, and just being able to jump on top on the outside and secure the tackle. So now here's the thing. He went for the pass deflection, right? But at the same time, the fundamentals of it, once you go for a pass deflection, you want to make sure that you secure the tackle, that you wrap your arm around your receiver and then go for the pass deflection, because if you miss the pass deflection, you still get the tackle, just like right here on this play. So once again, man, we're going to end this off with Derek Stingley being another ball hawk. So right here, you see that he's matched up one-on-one with this guy right here. And he just, obviously does Derek Stingley things. So he didn't fall for the double move. So it's almost kind of similar to what I was saying once again, just understanding the leverage, understanding splits, understanding all of those things, because all of those things goes into what happens on the play right and what happens on the play wrong. So with Stingley's very good at being aware of the situation. So obviously you look at where the receivers lined up. He's not necessarily lined up too far outside where he normally probably would be aligned at. He's kind of lined up like right there on the numbers, kind of on top of the numbers into it, like kind of like right outside of the numbers, but he's not farther out, right? So what he's doing, once again, you kind of have to be aware. So if you're looking at his split, the way he's lined up is creating room outside. right? So his split is giving him room to be able to work outside, because if not, he would just line up typically where he normally lines up. So obviously, you know, based off the split, he's trying to create room on the outside. And right here, he tries to kind of sell it. Once again, he does a double move, and Stingley once again does not bite on that double move at all. But guess what? Look at the guy that was behind, that's right over there on the side of Stingley. So if you bounce in, guess what? You're going straight to that guy. So I'm not worried about that. Now, if I bite on you trying to bounce in and I try to undercut that route or beat you to the point, guess what? And you bounce it back out, that's probably a touchdown. So me being aware of that, if you go in, cool, I'm going to give you that because my help is there. I'm just not going to give you anything over the top. So once again, he does a good job at not falling forward and kind of just stays underneath them. And kind of knowing that in order for this play to be completed, he has to throw the ball over me, right? And and that's a tough throw. I'm not going to say how many quarterbacks can make it, because obviously in the National Football League, you got some guys that can put balls into tight windows, but that's a hard throw for anybody, man, you know, especially with the sideline working against you, to try to heave that over the corner to your receiver, especially when the separation really isn't that great. It's kind of hard to do. So, and once again, and when you're dealing with Derek Stingley, you're dealing with a guy who has phenomenal ball skills and very good at playing the ball in the air and coming up with interceptions or pass breakups, just like how he did on this play right here, man. So I enjoyed breaking down film on him as well, too, man. There's a lot to like about this guy, man. Once again, you know, he's a willing tackler. That's something that I was kind of looking for in terms of like breaking him down, especially after breaking down McDuffie. I wanted to see a guy who can contribute in the run game, and we've seen him being able to do that. And just honestly, man, we just seen the ability, the ball hawk ability he has to come up with these interceptions, to play the ball in the deep part of the field, to match up with the best receivers one-on-one, Brian Thomas Jr., Tyreek Hill, and be able to DJ Moore, and to be able to come up with those wins matching up on those guys. That just solidifies how good he really is. And then, like I said, too, man, his ability, his speed, his acceleration, you know, being able to, you know, recover if a receiver does get a step on him, being able to close the distance on certain routes to prevent them from being able to get it, to be able to really get anything going, and then the ability to make tackles in the open field to prevent potential big plays. It's a lot to like about this guy, man. So, you know, Texans, y'all should be happy about, you know, having this guy on your team and having him locked in. But, man, as if for this video, if you guys did enjoy this video, do me a big favor, smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And when you subscribe, make sure that notification bell is turned on. That way you'll be notified every time I upload. And I'll see y'all in the next video.